Hey friends, if you are writing a book, it is very possible that you have been tempted recently or in the past by the idea of a writing retreat. Just spending days or even weeks on end, maybe in a little cabin in the woods or in a beautiful house by the beach, where all you have to do all day long is luxuriate in your creativity and write. Now, if any of you has actually gone on a writing retreat, you probably know that's not usually the way that it works out. But today, what I want to talk to you about is how to prepare for a writing retreat so that you have the best chance of it being magical and productive. A wonderful meditation teacher that I know, Jack Kornfield, says that awakening is an accident, but meditation makes you accident prone. I love that idea. And so I'll say that having an amazing writing retreat that's super magical and productive, it's kind of an accident, but preparation will make you accident prone in this case. So I want to talk to you about 4 different things I'd like you to do before you go on a writing retreat. Now, this could be a writing retreat that you go on with a group, like the ones that I'm going to be leading in 2019. There are 3 5-day writing retreats. All of the details are below that I am going to be presenting in honor of my book, The Book You Were Born to Write. But you also might go on a writing retreat all by yourself, and that's fine too. And in fact, some people write best in solitude. So it really depends on what your preferences are, how you'd like to go about this. But either way, I want you to do the 4 things I want to talk about. Okay, so absolute number 1 most important thing to do before you go on a writing retreat is to know in advance what it is that you're going to be writing about. It is so important to pre-plan your writing itself, because the plan to go with just a blank page will lead to something I call blank page paralysis. And I have discovered over working with authors for 20 years and writing my own book that when you have blank page paralysis, it doesn't matter how much time you've set aside. It doesn't matter how much you've paid for the Airbnb by the ocean. You won't get anything done. I don't want that to be the outcome for you. So extremely important in advance to know what you're going to be writing in a granular way. So if you're working on a novel and you have maybe written the beginning 3 chapters, I want you to know that you're going to write chapters 4, 5, and 6. And I want you to know very, very closely what it is that's going to be in each of those chapters. The way to do that is to have a detailed outline. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know I am obsessed with an outline. It's important for so many reasons, but when you're preparing for a retreat, it's even more important. Why? Because it's very easy to waste that precious time that you've set aside wondering, what am I supposed to be writing about? Getting into this place we call writer's block. An outline keeps writer's block at bay. So by all means, please prepare a detailed outline, knowing what subheadings you want in each chapter if you're writing nonfiction, and what stories you're going to include to illustrate your ideas, and what exercises maybe you're going to include, again, if that's a prescriptive nonfiction book. If you're writing your own story, map out exactly which scenes you're going to include in each of those chapters, and then commit to writing those scenes while you're there. Try not to veer too far afield of what you had planned in advance. It is always a good idea to be writing over not writing. And if you spend your time deliberating over whether or not you put the right things in your outline, you're likely to end up not writing. If you're writing fiction, it's the same thing. You're going to be mapping out what scenes you need to include in that chapter so that the narrative arc is headed in the right direction for the chapters that follow. Okay, so number 1 tip, preparing for your writing retreat, come with an outline in hand, one you've been working on for a while so you feel really confident about it. Okay, that's how you know what you're going to be writing. Then I want you to know how much you plan to write. This is important because otherwise you won't know whether you've done enough on a given day. Nobody can write for 12 hours a day. It is a myth of the writing world that you're writing for 12 hours a day, even if you are on a writing retreat. So you need to know, well, what is my goal? At what point do I know I can check off the writing that I was going to do today and I can feel accomplished and productive and like I did what I meant to do when I set out on this retreat? So there's 2 different ways you can talk about how much you're going to write. The first one is to set time frame and say, I'm going to write for 3 hours. And by write, I mean, I'm going to sit at my keyboard and there are going to be words coming out of my fingers, or I'm going to sit at my notebook and I'm going to be moving that pen. Whether or not that content ends up in the book doesn't really matter if you've set your goal to be writing by time. What matters is that you're actually sitting down butt in chair and doing work. So that's one way you can do it. 3 hours a day, maybe 5 hours a day. Don't overpromise. You can always write more, but make sure that you set yourself a minimum writing goal time-wise that you can actually achieve. So that's one way you can set your decision about how much you're going to be writing. The other way is by word count. And I happen to like word count because it's very crisp, and you can get up from your computer and go get a glass of water and not feel like you are somehow cheating yourself out of the time that you had planned, because it's actually based on the number of words you put down on the page. It also helps you avoid spending the time you're at your keyboard editing. I do not want you to be editing on a writing retreat. That writing retreat, unless you've already written a full draft and you're in the revisions phase, I want you to be writing. I want words on the page. So that's another reason why I really like a word count as that sort of indicator that you've done what you should do. Now, you can decide how many chapters you want to write, and you can decide how many words per chapter and say, I'm going to write a chapter a day. That's maybe a little bit too much, maybe half a chapter a day. Somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 words is usually doable for someone who's doing a very first draft and just putting the words on the page and knows in advance very clearly what they're supposed to be writing about, hence the outline. You will get more words on the page if you know what you're writing about. So those two tips go together, okay? Number 1 and number 2. So know what you're going to be writing, number 1. Number 2, know how much you're going to be writing. Number 3, consider having a conversation with an editor before you go on the retreat. This is a great way to sort of head off any issues at the pass. Let them look at your outline, talk things over with them, have them help you strategize which pieces you want to write while you're away. It can be very helpful to have an extra set of eyes and someone who does books for a living giving you that kind of feedback. And also, if you can have that editor on call while you're away, assuming that you're not out in the middle of nowhere and don't have any cell reception, that can be helpful too. Even if you never contact them, just knowing that you have someone who knows what you're writing about, understands what your goals were for this retreat, who you can call if you get into a pickle, it can help eliminate the fear of, what do I do if I get writer's block? What do I do if I start freaking out or don't know what I'm supposed to be writing about? Obviously, if you're going on a retreat with somebody like me, I will be there at the retreat to be that editor for you. But if you're going on a retreat by yourself, consider having an editor that you can call while you're away in case you need them. Okay, that's tip number 3. Talk to an editor beforehand and maybe have one on call. And tip number 4, my last tip, is to plan really fun, really cool, relaxing, and or invigorating activities outside of the writing. Again, so many people I know have so little precious time in their lives that they think, well, I'm doing this writing retreat, so all I'm going to do is write. Let me tell you, that is a great way to not meet your writing goals on the retreat. It's too much pressure, and it's also not realistic. Writers who are writing every single day are not writing for 8 and 10 and 12 hours a day. It's too much. Now, some people have this moment in their lives where they just get a download and something is like, you need to write this entire book in 3 weeks, and they sit down and bang it out, okay? If that's what you would like, I wish that for you. But most of the authors I work with, that is not the way that it goes, either when they're at home or when they're on a writing retreat. That writing retreat simply puts writing at the center of your life for that week. It's the most important thing you're doing, but that doesn't mean that you're doing it 24/7. So plan some activities that you're going to enjoy. If you're staying at a spa or a retreat center, again, like the retreats I'm giving next year, all 3 of them are at amazing retreat centers with massage therapists and swimming pools and hot tubs and things like that. Plan time to go get a massage or to go have a soak. Know that in your schedule in the afternoon each day from, let's say, 3 to 5, you're going to be doing something fun, invigorating, exciting that takes your brain offline so you don't have to be thinking about your book during that little period. And P.S. bonus, sometimes the best ideas come during those periods when we're not writing, when we're taking a walk in the woods, or we're going for a run on the beach, or we're sitting in a hot tub or a hot spring, whatever might be that fun activity you plan for yourself as part of the retreat. Because again, a writing retreat is about writing, but it's also about retreat. And it's about getting back into contact with the part of ourselves who who wants to write, has something beautiful and amazing to say that the world needs to hear, and really nurturing that part of ourselves. So don't put yourself into a situation where you feel like you have to be writing 24/7 and you get stressed out. That's the opposite of what I want for you on a writing retreat. So before you go, prepare the time, prepare your schedule, and include fun, invigorating, relaxing activities that you love. And I promise you will actually get more writing done if you do. All right, friends. Most writing happens in small increments across a busy schedule. That's the truth of all the writers that I know who are actively getting books into the world. But that writing retreat can be a special time to really plant the seed of knowledge that you are a writer and you have the capacity to do it and you have the will to do it and you can sit down and write every single day. So I definitely encourage you to give yourself the gift of a writing retreat. And if you'd like to come with me, again, I'm offering retreats that map to my new book, The Book You Were Born to Write, in 2019, and I would love to see you there. All the details are below. Blessings on you wherever you decide to go for your writing retreat, and please let me know how it goes and whether these tips are helpful. All right, I'll see you again soon.